by the dawn's early light, what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleam, whose bright streets and bright stars through the perilous flight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you, Mariah. Welcome, parents, guests, our honored guests on stage, and most importantly, the class of 2015. There's some people up here who are very familiar to you, of course, your class advisor, Ms. Camacho. Your steadfast counselor, Mr. Valdez. Mr. Rivera, Mr. Di Natale. Our guidance coordinator, Ms. Walensky. And also with us tonight, our guest speaker, whom I'll introduce in a few minutes. Our superintendent, Dr. Torres. Our central office science consultant and former Eli Whitney staff member, Hank Weiner. And the chairman of the Connecticut Technical High School Board, Mr. Terfry. And I'll just say, I always cry at graduation, and Miss Waldron's already been making me start crying. So bear with me. I want to tell you a little story about a young man I knew. Some of you know that I served in the military 8 years as an officer in the United States Navy. One of my assignments was at the Naval Academy Preparatory School. This is a school for young men and women who aspire to go to the Naval Academy, but for whatever reason they're not quite ready, and they get 10 months to prepare. I taught trigonometry and calculus. Sorry, I forgot to tell you to sit. Our students in this trigonometry calculus class were in low, medium, and high sections. I taught medium. Day one, this young man said to me, "Please put me in low. Please help me get to low. I can't be in medium. I can't do it. I can't do it. I've got to be in low. I never even graduated from high school." Well, this seemed very odd because you do not go to the United States Naval Academy if you did not graduate from high school. So, to be honest, I thought he was lying to me. I said, "Look, this is the first day. I'm not going to help you go to a low section on the first day. You do everything you can possibly do for the first half of the marking period. We'll see where you stand, and if you have done everything in your power to do your very best and you're still struggling, then I will support you 100%. By the middle of the marking period, he was doing pretty good, but he was very nervous. And he said, I know I'm doing okay now, but what about tomorrow? What about the next day? Pretty soon it's going to catch up to me and I'm not going to be able to do it. I said, well, let's wait till the end of the marking period. Let's see how you're doing. By the end of the marking period, he was one of my best students. By the time he graduated, he was in the top 10 in a class of nearly 300. He became much more assured of himself. And when I congratulated him on his graduation, he said, well, when I become an admiral, just look me up. I'll do you a favor. So I've always wondered, did he become an admiral? What happened? Well, you know, now we have technology at our fingertips. So I Googled him. He had a very unusual name. And I found a lieutenant commander with his name, and the time frame was about right. And I said, well, okay, he made it through. He graduated. Then I found a reference to a book called Air Warriors by Douglas Waller. And when I looked, of course, now what are you going to do? You got to go to Amazon. Found the book. And the write-up on Amazon said that it highlighted a young man who successfully became a naval aviator or pilot without even a high school diploma. I said, okay, that's him. I got the book and read it. So let me tell you the true story of this young man. When he was in about 6th grade, his parents both died. He was passed around from relative to relative, and his relatives, although they were well-meaning people, didn't really care whether he went to school. By 8th grade, he was not attending school at all. He wanted to go into the military, and he started talking to recruiters. And the recruiters said, number one, you're too young, and number two, you did not graduate from high school. We will not talk to you if you did not graduate from high school. You don't even have a GED. At this point, he was bussing tables in a diner, and the manager of the diner took interest in him and said, look, you got to do something with your life. You're a nice kid. You don't get in trouble. You work hard. You're pretty smart. But you're going to be bussing tables for the rest of your life. You've got to figure out how to get past this. And this person encouraged him to get his GED. He went and bought a study book, and he studied up on his own, took the test, and passed. Went back to the recruiter with his GED, and the recruiter said, well, you know, we can't do a lot with a GED, but, you know, we can do something. But you're only 16. You can't join the Navy when you're 16. So he took paperwork to the relatives who really had not cared too much about whether he went to school, and he got one of them to sign off that he could go into the military at age 16. Since he did not have a high school diploma, he did not qualify for any of the high-tech training offered by the Navy. So they just simply gave him orders and sent him to a ship. When you get orders and just get sent to a ship, you have to do grunt work. You clean toilets, you paint things, you clean things, you mop floors. That was his assignment. He became what's called a striker. A striker is someone who doesn't have a trade, but gets permission to shadow someone to try to learn their trade. On a ship, you work 12-hour shifts, 12 on, 12 off. During his 12 off, which you would hope he'd get a little sleep, he would shadow people and try to learn their jobs, and he did such a good job that he was able to earn the fire control rating. And in the Navy, fire control means firing missiles, which is a very complicated job. He so impressed his commanding officer that his commanding officer recommended that he go to the Naval Academy Prep School, but it created a huge debate because they said he can't do it. He's not prepared. He doesn't have a diploma. He didn't even go to high school, for crying out loud. But this commanding officer believed in him so much that he said, I stand behind him 100%. I guarantee he will succeed. And if he doesn't, give him back to me because I will take him any day of the week. He completed the Naval Academy Prep School, and he did successfully graduate from the United States Naval Academy, one of the most prestigious institutions in the world. And then went on to become a naval aviator, which is one of the most selective trades in all military. I ask you, if he could do that, what can you do? Tonight, you join the ranks of the successful alumni of Eli Whitney: Jonathan Garcia, class of 2004, Kristen McDowell, class of 2009, Richard Hazel, class of 1959, and his student, John Welch. Take flight, make us proud. I'm not going to devote a lot of time to telling you a lot about our guest speaker because she's going to share some of her experiences with you. And she's had some very interesting experiences that we can all learn from. But what I will tell you is that she's been my boss, my teacher, and my mentor. More importantly, she's been my spiritual guide, my big sister, and my friend. She taught me, do the right thing, the rest will take care of itself. It's my honor to introduce my former boss, a former principal of Eli Whitney Technical High School, and the first Black female to ever be a principal in the technical high school system, Paulett Moore Rogers.
To this fabulous class of 2015, to my friend, Dr. Moran, to all the other honored guests on this stage, to my friends, my colleagues, but most importantly, to my kids. Even though I retired in 2009, you're still my children. Because we have a connection, and that connection is Eli Whitney. Now that wasn't in my speech, so now I have to find where I am in my speech. But sometimes you have to speak from your heart. And Eli Whitney was truly an experience, and I could not have done it without Dr. Moran. She came in. She was willing to give, she was willing to work hard, but most important, that she loved the children at Eli Whitney. I should say children, the students at Eli Whitney, as I love the students at Eli Whitney and the staff. That makes all the difference in the world. And the other thing she said, do the right thing, and everything else will fall in place. But after 6 years of retirement, I'm back on the stage and I'm teary-eyed already. I don't think I've been teary-eyed too many years since I left Eli Whitney, but every graduation, it was just a true loving experience to see how the students have been molded and shaped by the staff, by our belief system, by our value system. So now, as Dr. Moran said, you are an alumni of Eli Whitney, and it is very important that you make us proud. You never know who you're going to run into, because I run into graduates of Eli Whitney all the time, and it makes me feel good to know that maybe I didn't have anything to do with you, the individual student, but I had something to do with the institution, that of Eli Whitney. And Eli Whitney continues to grow. It continues to be a place of learning in this community, and this is my community, so I'm invested in you, and I'm invested in this building and in this school system. I know that you don't want to hear anything long, because you want to go out and be with your friends and your family and you want to party. So I have to confess that each year at graduation, my prayer was the same thing as your prayer. Let's hurry up and get out of here. But there's just a few things that I want to say. And Dr. Moran did ask me to tell my story. And I never really thought about my story. We all have a story. But certainly, many years ago, my first experience was not a good experience, but it was an experience. But there have been things that could have derailed you, but you did not allow those things to keep you from meeting your goal of graduating. So I want to tell you why I think that we both have a story to tell. I had to reflect on my story, and some parts of it were painful. But my journey's not been easy, but it was a journey that I wouldn't change for anything. Because who would have ever thought this little black girl from Kentucky, whose family had to move to Ohio because the schools were forced in Kentucky to integrate because of the Brown versus Board of Education. This integration left my parents without a job. They integrated the schools, but they did not integrate the teaching staff. Now that didn't seem fair. But who would have thought this little girl who remembers her first day at school in this new city and the unkind and unpleasant attitude of the teacher when I was dropped off in the classroom by the principal? The look on the teacher was, oh, not another one. That was the only thing I remember in my first grade year, and you know that wasn't fair. Who would have ever thought that this little country girl that had a speech impediment and a hearing problem would survive this new environment? Who would have ever thought that this 16-year-old who lost her mother in the 10th grade would rebound and still rise without the support of a counselor or a social worker? Who would have thought this little black girl, a product of segregation, the civil rights movement, and the race riots of the 60s, who was told by her counselor that she was not college material? Who would have ever thought that this little country girl from Kentucky, who graduated from a historically black college, moved to Connecticut and graduated with a master's and a 6-year degree from two prestigious universities, the University of Connecticut School of Social Work and Fairfield University? Who would have ever thought that this little insignificant country girl with no family in the area would have the doors of opportunity open for her to become the first woman and the first African American woman to become principal of Eli Whitney Graduation? Girl who never had a teacher take a personal interest in her, who experienced a number of negative school experiences, would still want to work in the field of education. I was destined to be a change agent and to open the door of opportunity for others to have their dreams become reality. In spite of all the trials and tribulations I experienced, I can say there are many things that sustained me. But the one thing that relates to my story and to your story is resilience. Graduating from high school is a milestone for each of you, and there have been many lessons that you have learned. There's been a difficult time at Eli Whitney. I know that there's been 4 principals in your 4 years. There's been vacancies, but guess what? You survived. Resilience is what you have. There's been many circumstances and distractions and dilemmas in our families, in our schools, in our country, in our world that I didn't have to face as you have. But you have not been derailed from your goal of graduating. In spite of the pitfalls and the troubles, you are still standing. What makes each one of you to stand out above the crowd? It is resilience. Your ability to focus, endure, to have a shield of protection around you. Resilience is the ability to withstand the trials and tribulations of life. The ability to still stand in spite of. There are so many things that could have changed the course of time, changed the course of events in your life, but you remain focused, committed, determined, and above all, resilient. You have the same ingredients that I had when I was your age. Resilience, fortitude, determination, commitment, and a drive to be somebody. You have the tools, you have the trade, skills, you have the work ethic, you have all that it takes. And you have been molded, shaped, and sometimes tortured by your teachers, by your department heads, by your counselors, by your support staff, even security and maintenance, and of course, administrators. They made you who you are today. Be proud today, tomorrow, and forever. Tonight is a milestone. It's the beginning of a new day in your journey called life. You're crossing over in many ways into adulthood. There will never be another high school experience. There will be many tears shed tonight. There will be hugs, kisses, and yes, parties. But I would like to leave you with a roadmap for success. There will always be valleys and peaks. There will always be ups and downs. But always remember the poem by Maya Angelou, "And Still I Rise." I would like for you to just remember some of these points, even if you just take one away with you tonight. Remember that you were created for a purpose in life. Never doubt who you are or who created you. Have faith, trust, and belief in yourself. Love and respect your family and elders, even when things may not be going the way you want. Be a lifelong learner. Be a lifelong learner. Continue your education, further develop your trade skills, continue to read, use your skills you have learned. Keep your mind sharp, active, and alive. Build positive relationships. Find a mentor who has wisdom, convictions, and who will push you in the right direction. Disassociate yourself from negativity in life. Love conquers all, not hatred, not evilness. Value your heritage and your ancestry. Remember the struggles of those before us. Put the electronics down. And let me repeat that. Put the electronics down. Engage in a face-to-face conversation with another person. Look them in the eye. Feel their love, their pain, support and encourage them. Be a positive role model. Have a strong belief system and stand on your convictions. Even when it's not popular, stand even if it means you stand by yourself. Feel good about yourself. Love yourself. Remember the master potter's hand created you uniquely. Develop a passion. Get involved with whatever that passion is. Give back to your community, your church, your school, but give back. Know that you are not in this alone. Activate your support system. And when you fail, because you will fail at something, forgive yourself, get up, and get back on track. Expand your horizons. Learn something new every day. But above all, have joy and a forgiving spirit. Each day is a new experience. Don't allow the burdens of life to consume you, to depress you. Always have hope, faith, and joy, and know tomorrow will be another opportunity. Make us proud, the class of 2015. Eli Whitney.